Welcome. This shall be a session of trying to summarize and find out as to how the embryo looks by the end of the 4th week. 28 days of development. How would the human embryo look like? We've been dealing with all the details, the inner details, what happens to the ectoderm, the mesoderm, the endoderm, but all these are inside. So how would the external appearance look like? Interested and interesting to know, right? So let's proceed. We've already seen the 3rd and the 4th weeks of development. Various changes have occurred in all the 3 germ layers. And because of many structures making their appearance, the embryo has grown and has increased in overall dimensions. And as a consequence to the increase in the dimensions, there is folding, craniocaudal folding and lateral folding. And associated with all these changes, differential growth is also happening. The neural tissue is growing much faster when compared to the notochord or the mesodermal structures. And because of the neural tube growing faster, the ectoderm is getting pushed and has to accommodate or kind of, clothe the bulges of the neural tube. So all these changes lead to further changes. What are those further changes? Changes in the external appearance of the embryo. Now, we know all these. We're trying to kind of go by the chronological order. Day 17, we just see the embryonic disc, the sagittal view here, the cross-sectional view here. Days 19, 20, 21, 22, 28. See what's happening. It's in a clockwise order. 19 is this, where dorsal bulges have made their appearance. 20 also the same, and the neural groove here. 21, you find even the neural tube is kind of closed and the paraxial mesoderm has grown larger. So there is a predominant, well seen dorsal bulge. And here, the embryo is almost becoming a cylinder because of the folding, and it has become a cylinder by the 28th day. These are all cross-sectional views. So on the external aspect, what changes do we notice? These are all external aspect changes through and through the development of the embryo, but we are now concerned with the 3rd and the 4th weeks. So at the end of the 4th week, what do we find? Changes in the paraxial mesoderm have also led to segmentation of the paraxial mesoderm, which we have already seen as somites. And changes in the head region. That's what I told you earlier. The head region is developing, the neural tube is developing faster, and the cranial aspect of the neural tube is developing dilatations, which would become the brain vesicles. In one of our earlier sessions, we've thought about the forebrain vesicle, the midbrain vesicle, and the hindbrain vesicle. So we have the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon, and the rhombencephalon, these vesicles forming. So when these vesicles are forming on the cranial aspect of the neural tube, the entire cranial region or the head region is undergoing expansion. And when the embryo folded on itself, let's say this is the cranial aspect and this is the embryonic disc. For our study purposes, we are just retaining it vertical. And when this folding is happening, because this area is developing big, right? This is the developing brain. So when this is folding, this area is also developing, and this area would become the future chest region. This is the future chest. So when the head region, the chest region here, what has to come here in between? The chest here, the head here, so the neck region, which means the pharyngeal arches. So if you imagine this way, the head, the chest here, so in between these fingers, like the folds of the fingers are indicative of the various pharyngeal arches developing.